Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back for episode number 10 of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. I'm so excited to be here again, chatting with you, and I'm glad that you showed up too, because that would be kind of awkward. I would just be, talking to myself. So today we are going to be talking all about generating new pattern design ideas. This episode is specifically for you if you struggle to create new design ideas, if you ever find yourself in a creative funk, or you're just struggling to come up with new ideas that you feel like you're really excited about. And so these are my five kind of different ways or places to find inspiration for pattern design ideas, because I truly believe there is inspiration everywhere around us. It's hidden in so many different places, and it's also kind of in our face sometimes in different places. And so a lot of times what I'll tell folks, like for the design challenges that I host, is just be more aware and open to the things that you're seeing and that you're taking in and that you're feeling and all of the different things, because we can get inspiration from all of it. Like, for real, all of it. And so let's just go ahead and get into the list. Number one, I recommend paying attention to your surroundings, because there is inspiration around us. It can be in nature. A lot of pattern designers are inspired by things in nature, whether that's trees or rivers or mountains or oceans or whatever else happens in nature, animals, the sky. There are so many designs that have been inspired by nature. And just because there are already so many designs inspired by nature does not mean that you can't be inspired by nature. If anything, it's just proof that there's a lot of inspiration there. So that can be, when you're out for a walk or a hike, or maybe you've gone to the park with your kids, or just different things when you're outside. Pay attention to different things like the grass, the blades of grass, the weeds, the leaves, the texture of the bark on the trees, just all sorts of different things. You don't have to specifically be thinking about it like, oh, how am I going to make this a design? Just pay attention to it. Like, I think especially like the textures and then shapes. And I am a very emotional kind of person. I process things very emotionally, very sensitive kind of person. And so I also like to think about, how does it make me feel? Does it make me feel calm? Does it make me feel relaxed? Does it make me feel energized? Or just different things like that. If you like to also incorporate emotions, I think actually it's really important to incorporate emotions in your brand at a minimum, because those emotions are what really draw people in, whether that's like feeling welcome and invited, or inspired and motivated, or just all these different emotions that we feel that are so strong when we recognize them in another business, and it makes us want to work with them and to purchase from them and all of those different things. So, yes, nature is one source of inspiration in our surroundings. Another idea, which I have never done, is it might be interesting to collect pieces of nature, say like blades of grass, different kinds of leaves that have fallen on the ground, twigs, pine cones, all these different things that are just already at our disposal, not like we have to pick them off. Flowers, all those different kinds of things. It might be interesting to gather those together and bring them into your workspace where you create a lot of your designs, and just let those like be on your desk and see if that they pull inspiration even later after you've come indoors. The next thing is textures in general. So there are textures all around us. Think about the things in your house, things like your couch and your pillows, and even the walls have a certain kind of texture. Here where I'm recording, I have some whiteboards around me. Those are a very different kind of texture. Obviously, we have clothing that has texture. You might have plants inside that have texture, carpet versus hardwood versus all of these different things that are textured. And just pay attention to those different textures. You might find inspiration from those as well. Another thing that I just already touched on is our clothing. But it doesn't just have to be the texture of our clothing. It might be things like right now I am wearing a dress that has 3/4 sleeves, length sleeves. It has a hood with drawstrings, and then the rest of the dress is striped. It's a long dress. It's got a pocket in the middle of the front. And that might be something that I gain inspiration for a design, whether it's the construction of the top of the dress for the sleeves and for the chest, or it might be the stripes on the clothing. It might be the hood with the drawstrings, or it could be the pocket. Maybe that pocket is something that you love and you really want to put it on a pullover or something like that you're designing. Especially paying attention to the clothing that you love to wear. That's really, and why you love to wear it. I was going to say, that's really comfortable. The reason I say that is because I love to wear comfortable clothing. So what I wear most often is comfortable. And so then really paying attention to, okay, why is this comfortable? Why does it feel good on my body? And then you can take those characteristics into your designs to create something that you love. And last but not least, I already kind of touched on this too, I believe, was talking about things inside of our homes, just random things that might seem totally unrelated. Like right now, I'm looking at a Kleenex box on my desk. It's kind of like a painted look, just looks like some stripes of dabs of color that were painted on here. It's kind of a really fun artsy look, and that could definitely inspire your creativity for a new design idea. So first recommendation is, well, it's not like these are recommendations as far as try this and then try this. It's not like an order of operations. It's just a list. So my first suggestion is to pay attention to your surroundings. Now, my second suggestion is to think about your past experiences and stories. Now, if you know what my designs are like, I like to tell the relatable stories of living, right? Yeah, I think that's the order. Words are hard, okay? I like to tell the relatable stories of living. And what that means is that I really like to focus on the things that we go through as humans, the experiences we go through, the feelings that we feel, the emotions that we have, and how that impacts us as humans for good or for bad, or how we deal with those things, different things like that. So, for example, I have a collection of shawls that has the hope shawl and the endurance shawl and the trust shawl and the patience shawl. And so those are all talking about these different characteristics that we can have and things that we can cultivate, and how they can help us. And I have different things, like I have a collection, 4 collections that all relate to the idea of having a sense of belonging. Because I think that is something that is so key to us as humans, and it can be so difficult for so many of us to navigate, to try to find a place where we feel like we belong. And so I have these collections that are all related to that, related to different places of belonging and things like that. So this is second category is probably the one that I love the most. I mean, it definitely is the one that I love the most, because I think probably mostly because I am such an emotional, sentimental, sensitive kind of person. These things really resonate with me. And then my designs are a way that I can then transfer these emotions out into the world as something that somebody else can create, and things like that. So when you're trying to think about past experiences, past stories, think about things that have really left a big impact on you. Like usually you probably want to think more on the positive side if you have a lot of trauma and stuff. I don't recommend trying to dwell on that unless you're ready to work through it. We don't want our designing to be this whole emotional turmoil kind of thing. Maybe that is what it is for you. But like it doesn't have to be anything specific. Just think about things that like have a big impact on you and mean a lot to you and have a lot of value to you. Think about different people in your life, past or present, and different events that happened with these people, whether that's as a child or your teenage years or young adult years. Maybe you're a grandparent and it's when your first grandchild was born, or whatever these different things are that have left a big impact on you. And then see where that inspiration takes you. Just think about those different emotions, and then how do you convey those emotions as a design? So for example, I have the endurance shawl, and the way that I chose to convey that is just a lot of repetition. It's just enduring through the same thing over and over and over again. And anyway, I have a whole lot of symbolism in there. I don't need to talk all about my designs, but just as an example, like think about the different kinds of emotions that you're feeling, what these different memories mean to you, and then how do you share that then with the world? Is it through the colors? Is it through the stitch motifs? Is it through the shaping? Is it because it's a pullover and not a scarf, or different things like that? So yeah, we have emotions we can think about, happiness, love, sorrow, all of these different emotions. you can list emotions for days, right? So you can think about, just make lists of emotions, and then think about different things that come up with those and different stories and things like that. Relationships, that could be family members, friendships, romantic relationships, different things like that. Events, so just like the memories and different things that happened. Maybe it was something funny that happened to you. Maybe it was a time you felt really embarrassed. And then what you value. So what things are really important to you in life? It might be people, it might be things, it might be concepts, it might be emotions, things like that. All of those I wrap under the category of experiences and stories. But just thinking about all of these things that a lot of it just happens inside of us. A lot of people aren't aware of. But then also things that happen outside of us that then also still impact the inside of us. So then number 3 is to flip through stitch dictionaries and be inspired by the different stitches that you see. So if you're watching the video right now, I am going to grab the stitch dictionaries right now because I meant to grab those down before I started this podcast, but I will show you a couple that I have. If you're not familiar with stitch dictionaries, they are books that have instructions to make different kinds of stitches. So you could have stitch dictionaries just on a whole bunch of different cable motifs. You can have stitch dictionaries on lace motifs, mosaic, knitting, all of that kind of thing, everything, basically. What I have stitch dictionaries that have a combination of some textures, of some lace, of some cables, of some colorwork, different things like that. So if you're watching the video right now, this is the Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary. I do believe the title is mirrored, but it is probably my favorite stitch dictionary that I own. And it's just so easy to consume. They have nice big photos of what the stitch looks like, and then they have both the written and the charted instructions. And so sometimes I like to just leaf through this and find different design inspiration ideas. A lot of times the way that I use the stitch dictionaries, say that 20 times fast, is I already have kind of like my design idea as far as the emotion or the memory. I might have an idea of, okay, I want a sort of loose lace motif, but I don't know exactly what that looks like. Then that's when I pull out my stitch dictionary and I look for something that actually fits what I'm trying to create. So yeah, this is the Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary. If you're watching the video, I did show you a few different examples while I was talking. Here is another stitch dictionary, like the second one that I tend to refer to if I don't find what I'm looking for in the first one. This is 750 Knitting Stitches, the Ultimate Knit Stitch Bible. The instructions, typically these are more simple designs. They're shorter instructions. It doesn't have charted instructions. It only has the written instructions. And they're only written for working flat. The Knitting All Around Stitch Dictionary also has the instructions for working in the round. So that's really nice. You have the worked flat and the worked in the round instructions together. And this 750 knitting stitches, the images tend to be a bit smaller, but there's obviously a ton, 750 stitches in this stitch dictionary. I mentioned that a lot of times I just pull it out when I have an idea of what I want, but I don't quite know what I want. But then, of course, as I'm flipping through it, trying to find what I do want, I start to find other ideas for other things that I could create. So they're a great source of inspiration. Stitch dictionaries. Of course, these two that I'm talking about are for knitting, but there are also crochet stitch dictionaries. So definitely recommend that as a source of inspiration for your designs. As you're looking through the stitches, you can pay attention to different qualities of the stitch motif. What is the texture actually going to be like when you feel it? Is it something that's going to be comforting? Is it something that's going to, what kind of emotions is it going to evoke? Think about the drape of it, especially when, like, in conjunction with what you're actually trying to design. Are you trying to design a sweater? Are you trying to design a scarf? Are you trying to design a sock? How much drape do you actually want your stitch motif to have? And how much drape does that specific stitch motif have? Yeah, and then definition. Stitch motif definition is especially important when you're thinking about what kind of yarn you want to use, because different yarns have more stitch definition than others. So if it's a stitch motif that needs high stitch definition, you need to be careful about which yarns you use. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all to say about number 3, which was flipping through stitch dictionaries, just paying attention to different characteristics of the stitches and, let inspiration flow. Number 4 is to create and or look at mood boards. So you might be, even if you're not from an artsy creative background, like professionally or academically, you might be familiar with mood boards from indie yarn dyers who put together collections that are mystery. So often we'll see on Instagram, and yarn dyer has put together different images to portray what colors and what mood their collection, whatever it is, their mystery is going to be. And so that's a mood board. Mood board is just basically collecting a series of ideas as a whole. So it could be based on color. It could be based on different kinds of imagery, like forests that are dark and moody, or industrial that is sleek and not so cozy. It could be a specific subject. Maybe it's all about sunflowers or all about palm trees. Okay, those were really similar ideas, but I think you get the idea. Maybe it could be something all about wheels, like the wheels on your car or your bike, or in your mouse, like keyboard mouse. I just thought of that because I have the mouse on my desk here. Anyway, it can be totally random things, but then like looking at them, the similarities, the differences, the moods, the emotions, the did I already say colors? The colors, all of that together can really create some interesting inspiration. If you're looking for mood boards, they're super easy to find on Google. Go to Google, go to images, just type in mood board or creative mood board or artsy mood board, or if you want a specific kind of theme like sunflower mood board, go ahead, you can just type them. You'll find lots and lots of results on Google Images and on Pinterest. And then, of course, you can put together your own mood boards. If you already are like thinking of a whole emotion experience kind of thing, and you're trying to put together, you can try to put together some photos, or even it can be things like quotes that encompass this idea or this emotion to give you a little bit more artistic idea of what you're thinking of. So then number 5, the last one to talk about for this discussion for how to generate new design ideas is through design prompts. Now, if you're familiar with submitting design ideas to magazines, you are likely very familiar with design prompts. Design prompts, I think, are really great for folks who struggle with having open-ended creativity. So what I mean by that is that they like to have some more boundaries around them, around what they should be creating. For me, my creativity seems to like to be open-ended. It doesn't want to be told you have to design a sweater with stripes. It doesn't like to be told that you have to design socks with lace. It wants to do whatever it wants to do. So I struggle a bit more with design prompts when it comes to creating something that really feels authentic to me, because then I'm trying to design for the magazine's aesthetic and all of those different kinds of things. But if this is something you want to try, if you haven't tried it before, or if you want to look for more design prompts, you can go to magazine submissions, their call for submissions, and just use those prompts. Whether you want to apply for the magazine submission or not, you can use them to generate new ideas and start creating new pattern design ideas. You can, of course, create your own prompts. I actually have created design prompts that I think are so fun and unique. They're not like magazine design submission calls for submission. They're prompts. Those are usually pretty specific about, we want this kind of mood with this kind of design, and they'll often give you mood boards actually with them as well. But I've created design prompts that are a lot more open-ended, tell you to think about something specifically or remember a certain instance or things like that. And so you can create your own, or if you're still really struggling with trying to create new ideas, or you just need a little bit of help and some accountability, I have partnered with a fellow designer. She's actually a crochet designer, Beth of Fig Filament. And about 6 months ago, we created this program called 52 Weeks of Creativity. And so what it is that you get a new design prompt every week for 52 weeks, which is a year, to help you just think about completely different ways of approaching design ideas through design prompts. So some of them are visual prompts. Some of them are kind of like I said before, telling you to think about something specific, like an emotion or an experience or a shape or things like that. And then there are a couple that are audio-visual prompts. So it's a really fun way to really play with your creativity. And then Beth and I have both answered all of the questions, all of the prompts. And so when you purchase 52 Weeks of Creativity, you also have access to all of those answers. And we have a Discord group where everybody who's purchased has access to the Discord group, and they can share their ideas and just talk about different design creativity elements and things like that. So kind of went on a little tangent there, but if you are looking for more inspiration or think that it would just be kind of a fun challenge to just intentionally work on developing a new design idea every week, that is definitely available. I'll leave the link in the show notes, podcast show notes, so that you can check that out if you're interested. The other thing I was going to say about that is that it is weekly, but it only would just recommend 30 minutes a week. So maybe that's every Saturday at 10:30, you put aside 30 minutes to work on a design idea. It's not very time intensive. It's just a matter of generating ideas. It's not about actually figuring out the specifics of the idea and creating the design for real. Like, you're not writing the pattern or anything like that. So, I guess the other thing is I do also have inside of the Design Circle, which the Design Circle is a community for designers where you can grow and feel supported as a business owner and as a designer. There's a huge community aspect of answering and asking questions and bouncing ideas off of each other, as well as a whole learning side to it where we have workshops and guest speakers and all of those things. And then there's also an element where we have the design alongs and the design workshops, not workshops, design challenges. And so the design challenges, they're called creativity bursts. But that's where we have a different prompt every day for a week. And we all come together and share the different ideas that we created. And it's so fun to see where our different creativities bring us, our different points of inspiration and how we interpret that and all of that. So it's a very similar idea to 52 Weeks of Creativity, but instead we have 1 week every quarter So it ends up being 4 weeks throughout the year, 28 prompts. So if that's of interest to you, I'll also have a link to the design circle in the podcast description thing. And I think that's all of my suggestions for generating new design ideas. Again, there's so many places of inspiration, outside, inside of us as humans, inside of books, and so really just be open to receiving it wherever you are. So again, if you didn't write down the five ways to generate new ideas, I'll read them to you again. So number 1 is pay attention to your surroundings. Number 2 is think about your past experiences and stories. Number 3, flip through stitch dictionaries. Number 4, create and or look at mood boards. And number 5, use design prompts. And so I hope that this really helps you with creating more design ideas. Once you get started, sometimes it seems like it won't stop. I have a design journal that's just packed with way more ideas than I'm ever going to get to. But the cool thing about that, when you have more ideas than you need, is that you can pick which are the best ideas to follow through with. So overall, you have even better ideas. So I hope that this is really helpful. I'm definitely can't talk anymore. Hope this episode was very helpful. Would love to see what you do with it. Hear how some of these different elements inspired new designs. Feel free to go ahead and send those over to me. Tell me about it on Instagram at Pattern Design Circle, and I will chat with you on the next episode. Wow, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.